I am a transdisciplinary artist and an experimental artist. I create primarily with music and sound, but I'm also a poet and writer. Some form of liberation is what I'm looking for, whether that's for myself in the process of writing a piece, feeling liberated in some part of myself, or expressing some part of myself freely throughout like the compositional process. Or I think more interesting to me is that other people feel free enough, feel comfortable enough to express themselves through conduit of my work. I'm really drawn to the process of visual art making. So like if it's a painting, like how the painting is made or how it's like installed in a space, I might take like inspiration from that rather than the actual finished product. I take inspiration from like natural phenomena, science sometimes. But also just like anything I see. I've written pieces about like memes or like internet culture. I'm more interested in my work being in a space where people can exist as themselves and express themselves. I love when performers or ensembles play my music and then the recording or the performance sounds completely different than the last one because they're bringing their own ideas and they're feeling confident in, making some of those artistic decisions within the framework of my work. I use a combination of notational techniques. I use, traditional Western notation, but I also use a lot of cellular or like modular notation where there might be like a short gesture that's written out and then, using graphic notation or lines or arrows indicating to sort of repeat that gesture and expand upon it. I also use some like completely graphic scores. I've done like aural scores. Here for my duo project, we make our scores like on little post-it notes. There's one on my laptop from our last performance, but here's like one of my scores for myself. And it's just like a couple of instructions. I'm presenting my piece Ouroboros. It's a 20-minute song cycle that was commissioned back in 2022 by Beth Morrison Projects here in New York. The piece sets some of my own poetry as well as poetry by my friend Laura Henriksen. And it's sort of this ambitious horror song cycle that it goes in and out of these sort of referential horror tropes and soundscapes, but without any visuals at all. I'm also going to be presenting my duo project, Medium, with GG 200 BPM. And we make long form ambient noise music that we like to call death ambient music. So a lot of the sounds that we end up using or manipulating through sampling or through distortion and sequencing come from hardcore techno tracks, or they come from contemporary classical pieces, like in a club scene or at a hardcore punk show or at a really intense opera. There's like these moments where things are really tense and things are like really building up, and that's sort of what we're trying to capture. But we do that over the span of like 45 minutes. So it's like really immersive, really intense, but it's also really cathartic.